All right, on this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, we have a card coming up, and it is a big one, a big return for Canadian Regional Mixed Martial Arts Rise FC 6. It is going down on March the 13th. Songhees Wellness Centre out in Victoria, British Columbia, putting on that card. And a bout that is really catching my eyes between Blake Sigvaldason and Josh Kwiatkowski going down in the featherweight ranks. And I have Josh on the show for the first time. How are you doing there, man? How's everything going in the prep leading up to this one?
It's going awesome. I just finished one of my last hard fights. I'm doing great.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whereabouts you're training at mostly. I'd seen a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Etobicoke kind of photo. Is that the primary base of operations out of this one?
No, that's my best friend Micah's gym out in Etobicoke in Toronto out there. But I just spent a week in my fight camp out there. But I'm training under Shawn, Albrecht and Dan Golkar with Ascension Martial Arts and Scorpion Martial Arts. And then I also have a wrestling coach, Naveed. I'm going to try to say his last name. And then I have a strength and conditioning coach, Garrett Johnson. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I wasn't sure like what you were doing with like cross train, just with like the pandemic and stuff like that. It's cool you were able to cross train and get different looks from different facilities though and stuff like that, man. And yeah, Micah Brakefield, just great grappler and a submission underground veteran, so probably got good looks there while you were there.
Oh yeah, Micah's the man. So it's always good to pick his brain.
No, absolutely, man. And just got to talk about the last fight here because it was an impressive performance over a guy that, quite well regarded on the scene. A lot of tools in the toolbox, as it were, and just getting the second round finished there. What were your thoughts on the performance at Rise FC 5 and just what you were able to do while you were in the cage there?
To be honest, it wasn't ideal. Fighting is never ideal, and situations leading up into that fight were interesting. A lot of fighters are given choices and opportunities to not make it to the fight, and some fighters choose to dig deep and get their ass to the fight, and I did that, and it was great. I fought and I got the finish in the second round. There was some things with my coach's game plan that we weren't quite following, but I'm getting better at following a game plan. But I just feel a progression in my game. I'm really starting to figure it out and finding finishes out of three of my 4 wins are all by TKO or knockout. So kind of finding the best opportunities to finish these fights. And on the 13th, I'm going to find another finish eventually. I'm just going to not rush it and find that opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was, I guess, going on in the lead up to the last fight? If it's anything personal, obviously, I don't want to pry, but was it like related to like a training camp consideration or something like that?
No, my training camp was amazing. It was just a weight cut issue stemming from I had a fight previous, like 3 or 4 weeks earlier. I fought a guy named and I fought that boy, and he would not quit, but I just beat the brakes off of him. And in that fight, I damaged my one foot pretty good, and I just couldn't run, and I couldn't cut weight. I couldn't cut weight as a professional should, and leading up to the fight, I was too heavy, and it was a tough cut, and that's all it is. But
yeah, fair enough. Yeah. No, I mean, I was just gonna say, I imagine you learned a lot from that weight cut that can be applied to, this subsequent one here and everything like that. So, is that a fair characterization?
Oh, 100%. Things happen in this fight journey that can be taken as lessons, or you kind of just run over them and miss them. But that whole fight camp and that weight cut and everything was meant to happen, and it was meant to make me more professional, more disciplined, and just smarter, right? Like, we have to be calculated. When we're doing that, my word that I'm going to be there on a certain night, I'm going to put everything in my power to show up on that scale and show up the next night and try to take his head off, because that's what the agreement is with the contract. So, yeah, I'm going into this fight camp. My weight cut is awesome. I switched my meals are now fully meal prepped by whole cuisine, and it's ridiculously helped with my training, my time, and my weight is now down probably 10 pounds from what it normally is. So I'm stoked.
Yeah, I love to hear the improvements, man. Just, I mean, not even on a technique level, but just the whole scope of what you need to do as a pro fighter. So that's great to hear. But you've got a curious backstory. I was checking out, like a lot of rugby and football and lacrosse. It seemed like you worked in a couple, pseudo MMA fights there. It seemed like a lot of fighting was going on there, and it seemed like your mom was like, yeah, you got to stop this fighting or I'm not going to be coming to the games. And then you transitioned to MMA. Was it just based on that? Did you have like an entry point to seeing mixed martial arts as a sport, or was it just a matter of I need to get out there and fight some people?
I'm a slow learner, brother. I missed all signs that I should have been an MMA fighter earlier. And when I finally made the switch, and when I was 16, so many people were like, "Man, why did it take you so long to like join organized fighting?" I was like, "Oh, I had no idea." I just wanted to get down, and this last year of not fighting has been the toughest year of my life because, as you said, I've always been fighting, and even since as young as I can remember, 11 and 12, like at least every week I'm fighting someone for fun or what it be, and it's just even a different look. And just I always loved street fighting and fighting in lacrosse and football and any size, any man. Like it was just something to do, something that I could challenge myself and compete. And inside of me is just a ridiculous competitor, and I don't really care. I just love getting in physical altercations and trying to figure it out. And that's why this last year, without competing, took a long time to wrap my head around. Took a long time to accept. And I just trained my ass this whole time, and I've been in fight camp this whole time waiting. So I'm excited that I'm like 10 or 9 days out. So.
Yeah, and did training kind of become the outlet then? Just like, I guess, honing yourself and, getting ready to, like, whenever the next fight happens, you'll be galvanized and ready to go. Like, I guess, was there any utility you got out of the pandemic? Because you talk about it being like a difficult, almost like stifling sort of thing based on what you seem to be saying there. But was there any, like, utility or positive benefit you took out of the whole thing?
100%. Obviously, it was a tough time. So many changes, and this quarantine, I think, made or break a lot of young fighters. You can't miss a whole year of training. You can't miss a year of progression, and I did not. This last year, I've stayed fit. I've stayed learning, and I've stayed grinding the entire time, trying to fill the holes in my game and constantly tweaking things to try to get the most out of my time. And though I've been a little frustrated, a little angry, wanting to compete, that's not going to change. I always want to compete and I always want to fight. So I'm going to be a little spicy until I get what I want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this last year has been great for me. Usually my abs are kind of seasonal, but they've been in full stride this whole year. And a big part of that is one of my roommates is a professional fighter, Keenan Keller, as well, who's got a fight on the BFL card coming up. And me and him just been getting after it. And we just got fights to win. So that's it.
Yeah, and what's the dynamic like in the room with that? I mean, obviously they're not on the same day per se, but within a week of each other, so in close proximity for sure. Like, is there a different vibe in the gym? Obviously you're workshopping and just galvanizing your skills in general, but is there like a compounded sense of that when there's a couple guys that have just specific fight dates that align pretty closely?
My team is packed right now with upcoming fights. So me and Keenan not being the same weight division, we don't get as much work in, but we're constantly going for runs. We're constantly tweaking to the schedule, strength and conditioning. We share the same, a lot of the same coaches, and it's the same goal. Me and him want to get to the UFC, and that's all our goal is just to work as hard and as smart as we can, and be as dedicated and disciplined as we can, and just have faith that the hard work's going to pay off. And that's it. And we just have fun doing it.
Yeah, a great vibe in the preparations for sure. But I mean, you touched on something there, and I'm kind of curious, like, who the specific like sparring partners you're working with. Like, you're getting in the physical drilling kind of work with there. Who are the guys you're mostly getting in that work with?
It's awesome. There's a couple gyms that do open sparring, I've been linking up with them for this fight camp, and a couple of my main training partners have been Taylor Christopher, another young up-and-coming featherweight fighter. I was just putting on some work with him today. Super Singh, he has a fight coming up. I got some work in with him. Just a bunch of different looks. A lot of wrestlers, people wanting to take me down because that's what Blake's going to want to do. So the game plan is fairly black and white in this one. So just fighting people that are going to be trying to give me those best looks. I've been putting in a bunch of work with Craig McLean's got a fight coming up as well, and a bunch of good guys in the BC MMA scene I got to work with.
So the goal for this one to, I guess, maybe to use like a term from a few years ago, maybe like more sprawl and brawl, like in the sense of like keeping things standing and whatnot.
Blake has 3 wins by RNC or sub. I have 3 wins by knockout. That's just, I'm not afraid to go to the ground with him.
Oh, but sure, yeah.
At the end of the day, like when you can touch someone and you can put them out, like I'm going to take the path of, least issues. I'm not going to jump into where he's strongest, but I know he's aware that I put people out. So I know once I touch him, there's going to be some panic and there's going to be some wrestling exchanges. But I think people are going to be impressed with the gains I've made in my wrestling and grappling because I'm becoming a lot more well-rounded, and I'm excited to see and show people what I've got in my arsenal now.
Yeah, and it seems like based on what you're saying, you're familiarized with what he brings to the table and stuff like that, just him being that XFFC bantamweight champ and just kind of looking to rebound from having that, 3-fight win streak snapped in a recently relative kind of way. Like, what are your thoughts on him as an opponent overall? Because it seems like you're familiar with what he brings to the table.
Oh, Blake's the man. He's a really talented fighter. He's fought the who's who in BC MMA. He's fought everyone tough. He's beat some really good guys. That Michael Imperato guy I hear is really good. He beat him. Yeah, he put on that 3-fight win streak, and then they got snapped by Jamie Siraj. And Jamie Siraj is a really high level fighter in Canada. So he fights anyone. He comes from Toshido, which is a staple of BC MMA. Like they've produced so many UFC fighters and high level fighters that when you're fighting someone from Toshido, you got to bring your A game. You got to show up because they're dogs, right? They're gonna fight and they're gonna fight to the end. So I expect an in shape, hungry and tough Blake, and the best Blake we're gonna see to date. He's been in the same boat I am, just waiting, chomping at the bit. So I know he's been grinding, and I know I've been grinding. So we got 2 young up-and-coming guys getting to meet in the center of the cage, and I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too, and I think you're compounding the excitement. I also talked to Blake, and he seems to have like a similar kind of dynamic, and as far as there's that mutual kind of respect and the perception that the fight's going to be a barn burner.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be fight of the night. I think that Allinger guy is going to sleep on me, and then I don't really have too much faith in Elias putting on an entertaining fight, but we'll see. I know I put on good fights, and I know Blake puts on good fights, so it's hard to say that 2 guys that put on great fights aren't going to steal the show, but
yeah, certainly.
I know what's coming.
Yeah, it would certainly be uncharacteristic of you guys if it wasn't a barn burner, but it seems like you're a real student of a lot of the stand-up arts, and I say that through the backdrop of seeing you were checking out that Aaron Pryor autobiography recently. How was that as a read, and just like is that kind of a staple of what you do, like a lot of like that kind of reading, just some of the sweet science kind of history?
Oh, I'm constantly reading. I luckily got to just finish Tyson Fury's new book,
Awesome.
Behind the Mask. I'm reading right now Terry Cruz's book. I'm kind of dabbling in Michael Bisping's book. I kind of got like book ADD, I like read a little here, read a little there.
I feel that.
I'll try to finish it, but the Aaron Pryor book was one of my favorite autobiographies. He's my favorite boxer of all time, and he just always brought this relentless pace, and he's an entertainer. And at the end of the day, like, you're not going into a fight to entertain the people watching, then I don't know. probably in the wrong thing.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of other stand-up that entertains you, like the gloved boxing, as I just mentioned, but also it seems like the bare-knuckle boxing is a thing you're into there. How long's that been on your radar? It seems like that's something you want to do, but maybe Dan Golkar is less than impressed.
I don't care what Dan says about bare-knuckle boxing. I think if I ever had the opportunity, I've been bugging every bare-knuckle boxing matchmaker from the UK to the States. I had an opportunity to jump on one thing, but it never worked out. And if I could dream, I really want to fight for BKFC, and I want to fight Crazy Horse, because his last fight against Tyler Goodon was actually really good, and he performed really good. And like, I would love to fight that guy, like, just because he's a legend. Fight him bare knuckle, and then I would love to fight bare knuckle and MMA, because the clinching, the boxing, it's just so raw, it's so real. And then I know without gloves, I'm definitely going to be putting some mofos out. So I guess I'm smiling ear to ear. I just would love to bare knuckle fight.
Do you think you'd grow the freedom mullet back for the bare knuckle debut?
Yes, I want to grow the mullet back now. I miss it. I wish the fight was a little sooner. I had a mullet growing for the whole year, and then I permed it. It looked ridiculous, and then I was like, okay, man, it kept getting in my face for sparring, so I was like, hey, I gotta cut it. I gotta respect Blake. I'm gonna cut my hair so I can see my face, So.
Yeah, probably some utility for the fighting. I mean, you got to be able to get out there and see. I mean, it's good to see the mullet bobbing with the movements, but maybe if the utility isn't there, not good.
Yeah, a little bit more party on the front, right? But next mullet.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that there, man. That's some great stuff. And I'm kind of curious, because generally I ask fighters about this when I have them on the show, like just what kind of music they're geared towards training to. It seems like Eminem and Chris Webby might be part of some of that playlist if your Instagram quotes are, to be taken from there. So is that generally the stuff you're jamming to? Is it kind of like whoever grabs the aux cord, you're down for whatever? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I think, like, my music is probably the only thing more bipolar than me, Like, I go from techno to Richard Cheese to some, like, Beethoven to, like, weird rap, then weird, like, house music. Like, I don't know, I'm listening to everything. When I'm cruising, I'm definitely listening to rap music, and when I'm playing training my clients or whatever, I'm definitely playing some rap music, because it's nice to just get that rhythm and get that beat. But I love everything. I love country music, you name it, rock. I don't hate on anything, so I like it all.
Yeah, it depends on the mood for sure. I'm kind of a similar way, and as far as I can have pretty weird changes. It's especially funny, like, if I'm hanging out with somebody, it's like, did you just go from Cannibal Corpse to Neil Young? It's like, yep.
Yeah, I went from, like, Bob Seger to, like, Disturbed, so okay.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that, man, for sure. But, in being mindful of your time and everything like that, I'm kind of curious if there's anything you'd like to sort of add as a parting thought as we're wrapping things up here, Josh.
Well, you've heard my bare knuckle dreams again. I'm hoping that someone hears, and one day I can get in the squared circle and knuckle up with somebody. And that's down the road. In 10 days or 9 days, I'm fighting Blake, and all I care about is going in there and making myself proud, making my coaches proud, and making everyone that's helped me this last year and everyone who's stuck with me this last year proud, because I know I haven't been easy to deal with, and I've been so frustrated with, like, there's nothing more I love than fighting, and not being able to compete guts me. And to have this passion back in my life and that flame back, knowing that I have someone waiting and thinking about me and wanting to fight me and wanting to be locked in the cage with me, that's my life. And my life is back now, and let's keep this going. And March 13th, I'm starting off this next round with a big bang, and I hope everyone enjoys the show. Buy the pay-per-view or whatever, however you watch this fight. You can watch the Blake fight, and then I'm telling you, that's the main event. Me and Blake, let's go.
Yeah, it's a killer fight, one I was excited for before talking to you, but compounded additionally just hearing the enthusiasm. And I think people will share in that when Rise FC6 goes down March 13th from Songhees Wellness Centre in Victoria, British Columbia. A great featherweight tilt between Blake Sigvaldason and Josh Kwiatkowski. Thanks again for the time and insights and just coming on the show, man. Best of luck with the remaining part of the preparations and just have a good rest of your day too.
Okay, thank you so much, brother, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
All right, on this episode of Bouks Talking Bouts, happy to be talking with an individual who has a big fight coming up. It goes down on March 6th, and fittingly, Rise FC6 is the event. We've got Josh Kwiatkowski taking on Blake Sigvaldason, and I have Blake on the show right now. How's your day going so far there, Blake?
Pretty good. Just got my first training session in. Now I'm kind of relaxing before the next one.
Yeah, and how has the training dynamic kind of shifted with everything? Because like the last time we talked, there was obviously not a pandemic going on and whatnot. So has there been certain, I guess, like adjustments and modifications you've had to do or anything of the sort with training?
Yeah, a few. I mean, usually I would, do team practice and then go to all the different classes that are offered by Toshido. But because it's been closed down during the pandemic, we've been kind of forced to kind of put together our own schedule. We still do the team practice and stuff, but all the extra sessions we kind of put together on our own for the most part.
Yeah, and great guys over there at Toshido, like you mentioned. The last time we talked, you were talking about how Chris Day was a pretty, I guess, essential sparring partner. Like, who are you getting in work with sparring partner wise ahead of this upcoming bout here?
There's a few, luckily. There's this a new kid. He's had one kickboxing match. I think he's going to be a pretty good 135er, Elias. But in terms of guys who've had fights, I've been training with Constantine, who's actually on the same card, and Jake McDonald as well. He's been able to make it to a lot of training, which is always awesome. And then, the same old guys, but for the most part, those are the main guys I've been training with.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what the excitement level is with getting back here, because you'd had that fight with Jamie Siraj that obviously, didn't go your way there, but then the subsequent Craig McLean bout that was supposed to go down circa November 2019 there for the 5th Rise FC seemed to kind of get canceled there. So, like, how much is the, I guess, excitement a palpable thing heading into this one? Like, are you really, I guess, chomping at the bit for this particular fight just with the inactivity?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm excited to get back in there and show what I've been working on. It's been a long time since I've been in the cage, and even in that last fight, it only lasted I think it was under a minute or something, so you didn't exactly get to show anything that I've been working on. And then it's, another year, 8 months I think it's been since that fight, and I've been working as much as I can during that time. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious what tools you're going to be showing off here, because like the last time we talked, you were saying that wrestling was something you'd kind of credit to as like being your base, but I imagine some of the, I guess, surrounding disciplines have been galvanized and improved even more so. Like, I guess, is there a specific area of your game that you're looking forward to showcasing big improvements in with this next one?
I wouldn't say there's any specific area. I just, I'm a lot better fighter than I was even a couple months ago. So I'm just looking forward to getting out there and trying to get as quick as a finish as I can. Obviously, I'm not going to force it, but go out there and making it, make a statement with this fight is what I'm looking to do, regardless of how it goes.
Break out the thrap style, eh? Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly.
But I was also noticing, at least per some prior interview that I'd seen, that this would be the second bout of a 2-fight deal that you have with Rise. Obviously not looking beyond this fight per se, but are you looking, I guess, continue the, I guess, growth pattern with Rise? Would you maybe be looking at some outside promotions, or just with the uncertainty of the pandemic, you're not even thinking about anything like that, and more so just focusing on this one here?
Yeah, it's basically like in the future I want to just try and just go fight to fight, and just obviously if the right fights come and everything, I'll stick with Rise, but my main goal is just to get as many fights as I can this year, and hopefully get some titles, and then by the end of the year go from there.
Yeah, and I mean, this fight seems to recognize one of those, great matchmaking kind of opportunities you were touching on there, just with Josh Kwiatkowski having those back-to-back W's over some pretty reputable individuals like Matt Clute, a guy who is a rising prospect, Randy Mahon, someone who is like a pretty established kind of crafty veteran, a 3-fight win streak, and everything going on there. Like, what are your thoughts on Josh Kwiatkowski's skill set overall and just kind of what he brings to the table as an opponent?
I think he's a good opponent, good test for me. I think he's well-rounded, and but I just think I'm better than him in, a few select skill sets, and I'm just going to try and put him where he's uncomfortable.
Yeah, do you see certain, I guess, like holes in his game that you're looking to exploit there, like anything of that sort, or are you not one of those guys like maybe just kind of like go into the fight and I guess get in that flow state more and then just kind of whatever your opponent shows on the night of the fight? Like, do you get too caught up in, I guess, certain tape study kind of things like that, or not so much?
I try not to watch my opponent too much. Like, obviously I do, and look for certain holes, but I try not to look into it too much. I'm just looking to come in there and fight my fight, regardless of what he's doing. Obviously, if he has some really glaring holes or really good techniques, I'll try and be aware of, but for the most part, I'm just focusing on myself and doing what I do best.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, man, for sure. Like, I'd seen a social media post a little bit ago where you were saying that you'd traveled 28 hours by Greyhound there and you didn't have a coach or a corner or anything like that. Like, how cool is it to kind of just like be along this journey and just like to, I guess, look back on memories like that and then see the measurable growth from, that point to, kind of where you're at now?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I wish I could say it was cooler, but to be honest, if I look back at who I was then, I looking at where I am now, if I was that person, I'm not as far ahead as I would like to be, So I got a lot more. It's less like looking back at it with like, oh, that was a cool story. It's more like, okay, yeah, I see where I came from, and I got more work to do.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I took it too. Just kind of like a fun thing to like briefly look back on, but not like a rest on your laurels kind of situation. Just like, oh yeah, that was kind of neat, but yeah, pushing forward. But just interesting because it said you were like 0-3 as an amateur and just push beyond that and fighting for a pro title. So just really showing the, I guess, push beyond adversity even at those early junctures there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed something I've always kind of held is just perseverance. I just time and energy into it, and I'm not going to let a few, speed bumps get in the way, even if they are big speed bumps. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of, I guess, curious as to what the song will be for this one coming up here, because like the first time I saw you fight, I remember the, I guess, memorable nature of the entrance song there, just kind of paying homage to your Icelandic heritage and stuff like that. Are you looking for a similar vibe with this fight coming out and everything like that, like a tip of the cap to the heritage and all?
Yeah. I mean, for the near future, I don't plan on changing that song for a while. Walking out with that same song.
Yeah, and I just love the backstory of your tattoo as well. Like, we kind of briefly talked about it the last time we had an interview, but I admittedly didn't know the, I guess, cultural significance of it, just with it being, carved on a, piece of oak, and then you lay it beneath the head of your adversary and put them in a deep sleep. It's pretty cool. It coincides with like the culture and your fighting as well, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I got it, and my newest tattoo is kind of similar. It's based on Scandinavian culture, I guess, and it's kind of like that last one that we were talking about last time is kind of like a curse, I guess you could call it, and the last one I got is more like a protection kind of charm, I guess you could call it. And I forget exactly what the sagas say that it's supposed to do or whatever, but it's basically like protect you from bad luck, and if you were to go on a voyage, you'd come home healthy and with all your limbs. That's basically what it was.
Well, that's really cool. Another thing that has the confluence of your fighting experience and just the family heritage. So that's cool, man. I really dig that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I'm kind of curious, just like backtracking a little bit to something you were talking about, just the sense of, I guess, not feeling like where you want to be in your career and always trying to, push forward to like the next goal. Is there something that represents like, I guess, like a career capstone kind of thing for you? Like for some people that represents, capturing like say a UFC title, for instance. Some people orient their goals to like, I want to go over and, compete in Asia or something to that effect. Do you have anything that I guess represents like a capstone, like top of the heap thing you would want to achieve?
Well, definitely UFC champion. Obviously, there's a lot of steps to get there, so the closest goal would be UFC contract. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to win the title and then defend it. Hopefully, win two.
Oh, so would that be at bantamweight and featherweight then? Because you kind of undulate between those divisions a little bit, just in as far as what the best available fight would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's really cool, man. And yeah, like I'm saying, definitely something you're familiar with in the sense of competing in the different divisions. So, I mean, that's cool to hear, but you've also been really good with your time, and I want to, be mindful of the rest of your schedule today. Is there anything you kind of want to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here, man?
No, nothing comes to mind. Just expect fireworks in this fight. I plan to bring a totally different version of myself.
Well, it's going to be a great fight. It was one that really, jumped off the page when I was going through Twitter and I saw it pop up. Josh Kwiatkowski and Blake Sigvaldason going at it. It's happening Rise FC 6, and in an apropos fashion, it is going down on March 6th. So thanks for all the time and insights ahead of this one here, Blake. Really appreciate, getting those insights. And yeah, just you have a good rest of your day and best of luck with the remaining part of the preparations for this one.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.